Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off in Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And that word iniquity in the Strongs is G458 anomia, which in the outline of biblical usage says the condition of without law, because ignorant of it, because of violating it, contempt and violation of law, iniquity, wickedness. And this is ultimately talking about the world being without the laws, statutes, and commandments of the scriptures, which is the only right way to govern anything. But hey, it's also talking about, the people in these different countries disregarding the laws of their governments and, the authorities that uphold the system. And, you can easily go do a Google search and see how, in many countries all across the planet, people are starting to get in an uproar against their governments due to, policies that are affecting their daily lives. And then, over here in the United States of America, you've got a lot of people, just violating the laws, as it is on a low level. A bunch of shoplifting going on, carjackings, home invasions, stuff like that. And this is happening while you can still go to the grocery store and get food and have electricity and have those three magic letters at your fingertip, 911. But imagine how things are going to be when those three magic letters disappear. The store shelves are empty, the power's out, and, it's just a free-for-all out here. Hey, as it said, the love of many shall wax cold, which that word cold is G5594 psycho, which what a psychopath is. Somebody who has no regard for another person's life but their own, base interests, which in the biblical usage says a metaphor of waning love. And, this was one of the things Yahushai, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus, told his disciples would be taking place in the last days, which we're currently living in. We're really the last seconds of the last days. And just by looking around you, you can see, major events are about to take place. People are living paycheck to paycheck, which, I recently did a video on how 67% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Food prices are going up, inflation, people are either getting laid off of their jobs or can't find jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And like I just said, in the midst of this, you've already got shoplifting, carjackings, robberies, and, an uptick in people getting deleted out here. And this is while, again, the store shelves are still full and you can still turn on Netflix. But this brings me to an article on CNN.com titled, "Service Restored After Widespread 911 Outages Impacted Mississippi and Louisiana," officials say. And hey, there was I think this took place, I think last week. Well, let's just read it. "Services have been restored after Louisiana and Mississippi experienced widespread outages of 911 emergency calling systems for several hours Friday afternoon as a result of damage to AT&T fiber optic cables," the carrier and official said. So, past Friday, for several hours, 911 was out. People couldn't contact it, and people were just asked out. They had to look for emergency numbers or alternative numbers, which best believe a lot of people don't know what these alternative numbers are. So imagine if there was a major crime taking place. You were shit out of luck. But 911 going out right now, this is just an example of what's going to happen during Jacob's trouble, because it's going to happen during then. And, the only defense people will have will be whatever's at their fingertips to defend themselves. And again, imagine what it's going to be like when there's no food on the shelves, no electricity, no internet, no answers to what's going on, and people have to go for what they know. And because iniquity or lawlessness shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. The outages impacted multiple parishes in Louisiana, including the state's 3 largest cities, as well as several Mississippi counties and the capital city of Jackson, according to officials. Just before 6 p.m. local time, AT&T said services are operating as normal across impacted areas after the issue was resolved. We understand how important these services are and apologize to our customers for the inconvenience, the company told CNN. A severed fiber cable was cited by officials in both states as the reason for the slew of outages. New Orleans emergency communications officials said earlier in the afternoon the outages were having a regional impact. Mississippi officials were working with AT&T to determine the scope of the outages, said Scott Simons, Director of External Affairs at the state's Department of Emergency Management. There was a major fiber cut located in Mississippi that has taken out all of this, Carl Fasold, Orleans Parish Communications Director, said during a news conference streamed on WWL-TV. He said there's no indication or reason to suspect the fiber cuts were malicious. And if it was, do you think they would put that out as public knowledge? No. That would just put the people in a panic out here, thinking that, there were theists around causing, disruptions to the system, which best believe that will happen. Remember a couple of years ago with the Colonial Pipeline hack, for a week, I think along the East Coast to down around here to Louisiana, the gas pumps, were off. So there was a shortage of getting gasoline. And then over in Texas, a couple of years ago as well, they blamed it on the Chinese, that there was a hack of a water facility which, dealt with, sanitizing and, recycling water like that. And you've had many, government officials and private citizens warn that the U.S. grid is highly vulnerable to attacks, whether foreign or domestic, and best believe that those things will happen going forward. You had that lady in the CIA, Sarah Adams, I believe her name was, on the Sean Ryan show, who said in the months we're coming into, around October and the holiday seasons, and this video was posted probably back in, earlier this year. She said, hey, we have a lot of reports that Al-Qaeda, Islamic extremists, they were getting all kind of whispers over the net that they were planning on doing major, attacks on domestic, centers all across the United States of America. You have that aspect of it. Then you have domestic tease, disgruntled American citizens, especially these Edomites or so-called white people, these patriot groups or militias that they're looking to disrupt things, white nationalist groups and stuff like that. And then on top of that, you have your very own government, which is run by the elites, who are going to be orchestrating a lot of these things as well to bring about the chaos. To do what? Bring the order out of the chaos. Order apkeo. But this brings me to 2 Esdras chapter 6 in the Apocrypha, verses 24. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, for a whole host of reasons. Civil unrest out here, which we could see that's brewing in the wake of Captain Kirk's, deletion. And, racial unrest brewing, which you had that Ukrainian girl on the train, which got, supposedly, in quotes, got deleted. You had a couple of so-called black men, Israelites found hanging in Mississippi. You've got that aspect. And then on top of that, imagine when the system's down, and like I've been saying throughout the video, you've got food shortages out here, electricity's out, you can't call 911, and people are having to fend for themselves, it's going to be dog eat dog, and there's going to be no 911 or police to call, which even then, especially back during 2019 to 2020, you had a lot of cops leave the force due to the George Floyd protests, and a lot of them didn't want to go along with the man on dates with the C-19 shots. So there's already a delayed response and to 911 responses, and a man shortage on police forces all across the country. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. And, on the one hand, that can go into this word, the truth, which is compared to as living waters, not being out here, the famine of the word, where the men of the Lord are no longer going to be on the highways and byways preaching this word, or these video epistles online, which we can see, again, in the wake of Captain Kirk's deletion. You're hearing a lot of calls for censorship of so-called hate speech online. And the springs of the fountains not running can also literally go into what? These water systems not running out here. Flushing your toilet, turning on your faucet, etc., etc. And what does that sound like? A grid down situation, such as from what? A cyber attack, which I just mentioned, that a couple of years ago in Texas, the Chinese supposedly did a cyber attack on a water treatment plant in Texas, which messed it up. So bringing that back to this article, they're not saying outright that there was any indication of a malicious reason for these fiber optic cables being cut, but who knows? We're coming into the times where major moves are going to be made to disrupt society. AT&T teams were dispatched and worked as quickly as possible to repair multiple fiber cuts. That's very suspicious in itself. One fiber cut can be a coincidence, but multiple ones that knock out 911 services across multiple states makes you wonder. For some customers in both states, the company told CNN in an earlier statement. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves also said services have been restored and the 911 system is now operating as it should throughout our state. Local officials have been advising residents to call alternate numbers while they worked to restore 911 service. Outages were also reported in Fulton County, Illinois, so up north, where officials advised residents to call a non-emergency number, the Canton Police Department said. Forest and Kemper were among the counties affected in Mississippi, while in Louisiana, Jefferson and Tangipahoa parishes, as well as the cities of Baton Rouge and Shreveport, were among those experiencing outages. Residents calling 911 in Forest County had to wait on the line until being transferred to the national 911 call center, which then had to transfer the call to a non-emergency line in the county. And if somebody was getting, in the process of getting deleted, robbed, or raped, by the time they got to the, alternative number, it had been too late. Some of which had crashed. And then on top of that, such an influx on these alternative numbers, they crashed. Gary Burns, the deputy 911 coordinator of the county, told CNN. It's pretty much it with this article. But hey, just like when Twitter or YouTube goes down for a couple of hours, people get in a panic. Hey, people were getting in a panic over 911 going down, which, that's understandable. But we're coming into the times where 911 is going to go permanently down. And hey, the love of many is going to wax cold out here because iniquity shall abound. Lawlessness. As society continues to collapse and people get more desperate, they're going to get bolder. And then, when the systems set in place to keep people in line aren't there, such as a police shortage or 911 not being available, people are going to get it how they live. And you got a lot of demonic, demented people out here just waiting for the system to go down to indulge in their sick fantasies. But now I'm going to go to 2nd Esdras chapter 15. I'm going to start at verse 14 and I'm going to jump around a bit. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Jump down. I'll keep reading. For the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Race wars, class wars, civil war, etc., etc. And those swords in their hands, is mainly going to be that gun, especially in America. For there shall be sedition among men, and sedition means conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. And you already see, not just in these other countries, but in America, these citizens getting in a seditious spirit because they see that these governments really don't have their best interests at heart. A lot of people are getting riled up over Trump's handling of the Captain Kirk situation. They see their freedom of speech getting stomped on. But I'll jump down to... I'll keep reading. A man shall desire... For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And your modern day kings and princes are these people in the government, as well as the authorities like the police or the military that uphold the system. And what do we read back in Matthew 24:12? And because iniquity or lawlessness shall abound. Especially with 911 going down, people are going to be in a lawless state out here, not regarding the orders of the government or the authorities trying to maintain order. You've already got the population that outnumbers, the authorities. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Everybody's going to get it how they live. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. What does that sound like? A state of martial law due to what? Grid down situation due to cyber attacks, LOCK down due to another pestilence out here, teist attacks locking things down, etc., etc. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor. Going back to 2nd Esdras 6:24. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, food shortages out here, and for great tribulation, all these other calamities that are going to be taking place during Jacob's trouble. And with people not being able to call the appropriate authorities to help them, it's going to be that much worse. And best believe the number one targets out here, as they've always been throughout times of conflict and war throughout history, are going to be women and children. Which brings me to Isaiah chapter 32, verse 9. Because over the past couple of months, brothers have been doing multiple lessons on Isaiah 4:1, where 7 women shall take hold of one man. Due to what? All the chaos that's going on out here. And we can see all over social media that these women are complaining that men aren't approaching them anymore. Men don't want to deal with them anymore, etc., etc. And then on the other side of the aisle, you've got American men that don't want to deal with American women, the passport bros and all that. So these women are going to be the ultimate prey out here. And the only way, and I'm speaking to the Israelite woman right now because that's the only one that has any chance of salvation. Your so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American woman. And, if you're a woman that looks like another nation of people, but this word resonates with your spirit, you're probably an Israelite foreigner. But to the Israelite woman out there, you better start figuring out, what man of the Lord you want to get with, and not just any old man of the Lord. You better damn sure know where the truth of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is at. And, if you're watching this lesson, that means you're on the, right path on which men the Lord is dealing with. But this is Isaiah 32:9. Rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall ye be troubled, ye careless women. For the vintage shall fail, and the gathering shall not come. And that vintage goes into, all these benefits you've received in Esau's Western feminist society, getting these government benefits, these grants and loans specifically catered to you, getting affirmative action or DEI positions on these jobs, and especially being able to call 911 for any issue you may have. As it says, for the vintage shall fail. It's going to come a time, which we're already seeing Trump's cutting a lot of these benefits, but also you won't be able to call those magic numbers to help you when you've got a pack of men after you, or you've got your ex coming after you, or just a random psychopath. The gathering shall not come. Tremble ye women that are at ease, be troubled ye careless ones. Strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. And to you Israelite women out here, you should be in the spirit of repenting and mourning and doing whatever you can to come back to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Not being proud and doubling down on that boss bitch mentality out here. They shall lament for the teats, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vines. All these creature comforts, especially 911 that you had to help you in society. Upon the land of my people shall come up thorns and briers. Yeah, upon all the houses of joy in the joyous city. Thorns and briers representing bad times. But now I'm going to close it out with verse 2. And a man shall be in hiding place from the wind. These calamities, these judgments. And not just any old man, but a man of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, which, if the Spirit's dealing with you, you can see that the Spirit of the Lord is on the men of the great millstone, as well as the brothers coming in the spirit of GMS. Now, I'm not campaigning for myself out here, because I'm a part of GMS. I'm just saying everything from the apostles and elders all the way down to the youngest men in the truth, by going through the scriptures correctly, is coming to pass right before our very eyes. So that should have you women thinking out here. A man shall be in hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere, Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until